Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 meeting of the Niagara Transit Commission. At this point, I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to conduct a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Member Beauregard.
Present.
Member Dodge.
Present.
Member Freak. Member Grant. Member Longo.
Present.
Member Mavridis. Member Morocco.
Present.
Member Olson.
Present.
Member Pachareva.
Present.
Member Ratzlaff. Member Redicott.
Here.
Member Riley.
In attendance.
That's it for today, Chair.
Thank you very much. Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabeg, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands in which we live. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Member Pachareva, Member Dodge, all those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the open and closed meeting minutes of February 17th? Member Longo, Member Morocco. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Moving on, item 6.1, General Manager's 2025 Annual Report. I'll now call on General Manager Stout for the 2025 Annual Report. Ms. Stout.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So today we're just going to do a quick run through of the annual report that is going to be posted for the public and our ridership and stakeholders across Niagara on our choices, challenges, opportunities, and some of our successes from last year in 2025. I do want to make sure that I thank this board again for your commitment and your care over transit over the last year. And in memory of our former chair, we will miss the guidance from Chair Jim Bradley that he was famous for, and certainly his kindness is missed at this dais. To just bring us back to the mission, vision, and values that this board adopted in 2024. Our mission, of course, is providing safe, reliable, and sustainable transit service in Niagara, working together towards a more connected region and helping every person in Niagara experience independence, freedom, and a sense of discovery. Our 5 values that we've based this report on again this year and are our markers for our success annually are and include service excellence, customer focus, affordability, employee success, and our 2026 focus internally, safety. So we'll go over a few highlights. Before we do that, as well as thanking the board for their care and commitment, I'd like to thank Regional Council, the staff at Niagara Transit, all of our customers and our stakeholders for their continued investment, passion, and understanding as we continue to move through not only our service standards and the amalgamation plan, but also now our transit master plan. Speaking of which, so the Niagara Transit's first master plan was adopted in 2025. This is the first 10-year master plan in NT's history, and it does lay out the framework for the expansion of transit across Niagara while remaining agile to respond to growth and change as we develop. Every community is to benefit from better connectivity and enhanced transit hours, optimizing our routes and providing greater availability to the public and to our ridership. So the plan ultimately has a few key targets, and that is to provide more one-seat journeys, which means reducing the need for transfers, faster trips overall on more frequent service, reducing trip denials on our microtransit services in our first mile, last mile multimodal trip planning, service enhancement in more of our marginalized areas across Niagara, and improving access and service efficiency. In 2025, we were really excited to introduce the Transit Benefit Pass. And the Transit Benefit Pass is essentially an eligibility pass for residents that are either collecting Ontario Works, the Ontario Disability Support Program, or that they meet a low income threshold in Niagara. And it's estimated that 50,000 people could qualify for this pass. But of those 50,000, we sold 5,176 passes in the latter 6 months of last year after we introduced the program. But that did represent a 338% increase in low-income pass sales from the year previous. This program could not have been possible without the support and partnership of the SAEO office here at the Niagara region. And just a reminder for any member of the public or our customers who are listening, the pass is available at 11 locations across Niagara, and we are expected to expand in this program over the next year. Launching our consolidated fares at the same time, we achieved borderless fare transfer and transit in Niagara, providing equity in access and realizing stronger ridership on our regional runs. One fare anywhere, beginning on July 1st, meant that Niagara residents can now travel anywhere on any of our services for the same affordable cash fare price of $3.50. Not only does having a single fare simplify navigating transit for riders, it also reduces the operational complexity, simplifying fare collection and reducing our administrative work at transit. Our staff meets regularly with the Provincial Municipal Fare Strategy Implementation Group, and we are getting prepared for possible future integrations with the Ontario One Fare program and potentially moving to Presto as a fare collection system, given some of the topics that are coming forward from Bill 98. In service excellence, we are thrilled to report that we made 99.9% service delivery in 2025. On our conventional service, that means that we were, our on-time performance was at 84%, which is over our peer average of 81. And on microtransit and specialized services, we achieved a 93% on-time performance. Ridership continues to top 10 million trips. In 2025, obviously, UPass ridership was affected by the federal government's limit on international student visas. Overall, that meant that our ridership over the span of 2025, after the introduction of the reduction of visas across Canada, meant that we had an 8% decrease in our ridership overall. Comparative to like-sized systems and or systems that do have a large dependence on students. My Way was down 10% last year in their ridership with regards to UPasses. GRT, or Region of Waterloo, was down 16, and Brampton was down 13. So at Niagara Transit, reliability equals pride in service. And although the missed trips did continue in Q1 of 2026 due to what I would consider a fairly harsh winter this year, the trend is continuing down. In Q1 of 2026, we missed 81 trips, and that's comparative to the 268 in Q1 of 2025, half of which were out of the span of Niagara Transit's control. When we talk about new service or new buses, new service to Dane City was realized through efficiencies, where the implementation of expansion on one service can mean efficiencies found on another. Introducing stops in Dane City meant that we reduced reliance on the microtransit system for both Welland and Port Colborne from that area. As I noted, safety is our 2026 focus internally. We've done a lot of work on safety already in this year for 2026, but in 2025, we introduced or reintroduced the Safe Driver and Worker program. And that recognizes individuals within our organization that have had a zero preventable collision, onboard injury, or preventable claim in that year. It is a way to recognize and promote safe driving and safe practices in all of our work areas across the Transit Commission. An AODA assessment was undertaken across the system at every single bus stop that we have in the system currently, and that number's over 1,800 bus stops. This is an important step to bringing needed improvements where possible to make Niagara Transit service more accessible for all our residents. And we do have a capital project as well as a program that is going to be starting in 2026 to start replacing in the order of hundreds of bus shelters over the next 5 years. Terminals have consistently been a challenge for Niagara Transit, not only with regards to cost for things like security and upgrades, but also with regards to managing persons who are in addiction or crisis or experiencing homelessness. And so this has caused us to take a look at what we can do at our locations, not only to keep customers safe, but also our workers. So this year we replaced some cameras at the Welland terminal that had aged out, that are giving us a bit of a better view of the property, meaning that they're also a bit of a better deterrent to behaviors that we don't want to see happen on our property, and they do assist the NRPS in investigations that come out of some of those incidents. We had a successful third-party safety audit, and this is something that we intend to do biannually. This is a third party taking a look at how we do our business, how we conduct ourselves as workers and as an employer. It was created by Langlois Safety and Training Consulting Services, and it is to ensure the NT's compliance with all of our related health and safety OSHA legislation, underscoring our commitment to a safe and accountable workplace and transit system. We're boosting safety again at our facilities by adding panic buttons at our terminals and at our outlet in Niagara Falls, and this allows staff to set off an audible alarm. We've eliminated some dead zones across some of our routes. That seemed to be a consistent challenge when we amalgamated the systems. Some of the radio technologies were not playing nice with one another. And cell phone service or cellular service across Niagara can be spotty. I think everybody's had that moment. But that's something that we cannot abide when we have a worker and we have customers out on a piece of rolling stock. So in 2025, we improved our tower coverage, and we now have full coverage across our routes across the region. Replacing in-ground hoists and equipment in our garages continues to be a focus for the maintenance team, and the new hoists that were installed in 2025 in St. Catharines mean that we can protect our fleet maintenance crews by not having workers stand so near the buses when they're being raised. For customer focus, we truly do believe that an informed rider is an engaged rider. So strong community engagement has been a focus of our new community engagement staff. They participated in 92 engagements and presentations to various community groups and stakeholders across Niagara, including seniors, at libraries, at long-term care homes, community centers. And we also attend committee meetings in local municipalities, such as accessibility advisory committees. With accessibility comes the obligation provincially to create a MyApp or a multi-year accessibility plan, and that has been completed and approved here by the board for 2025 to 2029. And that leads into some of the work that was done on street in the accessibility audit for the bus stops, along with a number of other targets that have been identified through the balance of the years of that plan that Niagara Transit wants to focus on to make sure that we continue to up our metric every year over every year in how we're doing from an accessibility standpoint. We had a great Niagara College referendum in 2025. 84% of our student ridership voted to keep the U-Pass, demonstrating again the value of Niagara Transit to students across Niagara. And we've started a terminal facelift in St. Catharines, completing a series of some repairs to our downtown terminal, including some painting, some signage, some lighting, just to generally keep, keeping up appearances, but also keeping safety in mind at the location as well. In affordability, through our pre-budget submissions, we asked for identified priorities of the Board of Directors and the master plan, realizing some of the funding from the government in coordinating our ISIP projects that we inherited from the local municipalities before amalgamation, and realizing just over $35 million in CPTF funding, the Canadian Public Transit Fund funding, for things like capital replacement and those needed facility upgrades. The ISIP funds transition, so these are some of those capital projects that I was speaking to that we inherited. We're in the process of working with our provincial and federal government partners to make sure that we're utilizing those dollars in an informed way to meet the focus of the master plan with regards to facilities development coming forward. With regards to the stabilization reserve, we are ahead of schedule. We did have some surpluses over the last 2 or 3 years. And this board, along with regional council, had us move those funds per policy over into a stabilization reserve. The reserve really is meant to be mitigation for budget pressures or one-time budget pressures, and I can tell you that if you stop for gas on the way here, you know exactly what I'm going to be telling you in June, that we are going to be talking about whether we need to utilize some of those stabilization reserves to take care of some of the deficits that we're having in fuel right now. As always, we are a proud member of the Poverty Reduction Committee, the Strategy Steering Committee here at the Region of Niagara. We believe that transit is vital for people who are experiencing poverty, and connecting them with opportunity, healthcare, and social services enables them to participate wholly in their community. Focusing on training, in this spring, in 2026, we are going to have all of our operators undergo full refresher training, and that is an incremental addition to all of the 2025 training that they went through, whether they were a new hire or they were an existing employee. We had everybody go through refreshed accessibility training, and that is about ensuring that we're providing the best service to our riders. Training highlights from 2025 include critical incident stress management and incident note-taking for our supervisors, understanding that documentation is power. We brought back the bus rodeo. So hopefully everybody comes out to the bus rodeo for 2026. But it really was just a fun weekend event for our operators to show off their skills. And for staff to get together to celebrate all of those successes that we had from 23 and 24. So in 25, our drivers piloted their bus through a timed course that I would defy anybody to be any good at. I did stand behind a bus and see how close to the pin they could get, which I thought was very brave, being the one that was standing behind the bus. But our shout out to Mike Horner, who was our driver, who did win the event. So way to go, Mike. We also had the buses come to town over the Christmas holidays and the Niagara Christmas parades this year. We brought Rudolph to visit 9 of our local communities. And, you know, watching some of the YouTube video of the Christmas events or the Christmas parades, I was really bolstered to hear, and I think it was the town of Lincoln had live streamed their Christmas parade. And it was the announcer's comment that was the first time he had ever seen a bus on Main Street. And so for me, that was a big win for this bus nerd anyway. So that was great stuff. Our performance assessment program is targeted at our non-union employees, and it allows us to provide them for the first time with an opportunity to have a one-on-one feedback loop with their manager or director. And it gives them an opportunity to highlight their own performance as well as receive structured feedback from their direct supervision. That is ongoing. 2025 has been wrapped up now, but 2026 is going to see us meeting one-on-one continuously with our non-union reports and making sure that feedback loop is always open and ready for goal setting through the balance of the middle of this year, looking towards assessments at the end of 2026. So what's next in 2026? We have a lot of work ahead of us. Through the budget process, our board of directors and regional council approved a lot of service increases and a lot of commitment to us. So we are getting ready to deliver on those. Not the least of which is Sundays and holidays across the network on the regional services, including specialized transit. This is the most common request that we have across the network and has been actually since regional buses hit the roads of Niagara in 2011. As of September of this year in 2026, our full network will now be available 365 days a year, and we are really excited about that. We're reintroducing the Fort Erie Community Bus on Monday. Fort Erie obviously has seen consistently high and growing ridership, and an investment was made to make sure that we realized the interlining of the Route 22 regional Fort Erie or Fort to Falls bus with the new Fort Erie Link Route 751. It's going to run the full day from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And it's going to bring consistent hourly service to the areas most frequently visited in town, and it will integrate multimodally with the Niagara Transit Plus microtransit service for the balance of the town of Fort Erie's areas. Not the least of which what we're proud of is opening access up for a small community, not only to the opportunities and the things that they rely on in their own town, but also out of town. The planning of that includes hopefully a year and a half from now, the opening of the South Niagara Hospital. This bus is intended to provide hourly service to that location as well. For advocacy, we're going to continue to work through our partners, both provincially at the OPTA level, the Ontario Public Transit Association, and CUTA, the Canadian Urban Transit Association, in their efforts to call for more capital and operating support from all levels of government to support Niagara Transit's goals, not only in the master plan, but in the service setting that we intend to deliver. We did and are submitting another round of pre-budget submissions and are going to be planning to connect with decision makers at events such as AMO or participating in OPTA's Queen's Park Lobby Day in December. Along with the Fort Erie bus rolling out on Monday, we are going to be filling in the map for the city of Niagara Falls. Residents used to be unable to access areas like Fireman's Park and Willoughby, some of the areas of South Chippewa and other community areas. But Niagara Falls Council supported the inclusion of all of those areas into their city, and they will be provided microtransit / specialized service to integrate them into the conventional system overall. We're improving specialized service in St. Catharines and Thorold by increasing our specialized transit service to meet demand. And we're going to be adding additional supervision in operations. And this really is about adding a supervisor to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of our growing network. We are a unique, large land area. And when you add a new route, at the end of a unique large land area, you have to make sure that your workers and that your riders are safe. So we are adding supervision to take on some of those rural areas in Niagara Falls and be available for that Fort Erie connection. We intend to have the entire fleet branded by the end of this year. And that means that all of our vehicles, including conventional microtransit and non-rider vehicles in 2026, will all look the same. To be one service in the eyes of our investors, we have to look like one service. And with the funding already in place paying for this major project, this is something that we are all really looking forward to. So I'll take you through a few of our key performance indicators. As always, we are focused on efficiency, always looking to enable ourselves to find the dollars to realize more service. But that means that we're always looking at optimizing the fleet that we have. It's not a do more with less, it's a do more with more. Fare harmonization means that we are constantly pricing and improving our customer clarity and reducing our operational complexity. Group purchasing and strategic sourcing, we have a lot of great help not only internally but also externally with our shared services at the region to make sure that we are taking advantage of opportunities that either come regionally or even provincially for purchasing our goods and services at a great rate. And we're looking to technology to enable those efficiencies for us as we move forward, not only in implementing something like an IT help desk software to streamline our workflow, but also, how are we going to use technology in the future for things like wayfinding or for customer service? So the over 99.9% service delivery and the on-time performance of 84 and 93% respectively, what it comes down to is what did it cost? What did that high level of service cost? And the cost per ride, excluding the capital reserve in 2025 per trip, was $5.61 per trip. If we put that against 2024, which was at $5.02, you see the impact of an 8% reduction in our UPass ridership. To do a cost comparison, a little bit of apples to oranges, because the 2025 statistics are not out from the Canadian Urban Transit Association yet. Our $5.61 per trip. Our peer, the region of Durham in 2024, had $5.15 per trip in 2024. Again, Durham was not or has not reported any of their losses so far with regards to their UPass or their student visa ridership. But just to put it into perspective, GRT, so Grand River Transit and Waterloo Region in 2024, had a $4.23 per trip metric. But again, they lost 16% of their ridership last year. So the 2025 stats are going to be very interesting across our industry once we start to understand what the actual impacts of the loss of student ridership actually are. So we absolutely could have had a higher result in loss of ridership when it comes to students, when it comes to UPass. But we were mitigated by the continuous increase that we've had in adult riders, 18 plus. Back in the day when I started at this, it was not unusual to see this pie chart say 65% students. And that's the days that I remember when I came on board when we started the regional system in 2011. It really was based on the need of post-secondary students across Niagara, and it wasn't unusual to see that metric in excess of 50 or 60%. We're watching the demographic of our ridership change in real time. And now having 50% adult riders, this is our largest contingent of increase in ridership across the system. So a little bit about revenue vehicle hours per capita. On the conventional ridership, we've stayed fairly flat. We have not changed that much because we have not changed that much. There has not been a lot of change in our service delivery from 2024 to 2025. We expect that to start to change as we introduce new rides or new routes. So, we might have a little bit more to compare ourselves to next year. But at least for right now, the revenue vehicle hours per capita is not going down, which is great news. Specialized in microtransit ridership, we have had ridership per revenue vehicle hour reduce. Again, same idea, we're still going to be impacted by trends like the loss of international students due to the reduction in visas, that sort of thing. But I want to spend a moment on the specialized and on-demand transit stats around vehicle stats. So the average time on a vehicle by a rider, whether you're on a specialized or an on-demand trip on microtransit, is about 18 minutes. So that tells me that people are taking shorter trips than they were prior to us becoming multimodal. If you look at this same stat from last year, that is a significant difference from the amount of time people were spending on vehicles. We are on time 93% of the time, and I would love to be on time 93% of the time in my own private vehicle, but that's never going to happen. The average distance per trip, again, shorter, 9.4 kilometers, which means that we really are getting towards that service model that looks like the microtransit providing a first mile, last mile, and not skewing the amount of time on board or the average distance per trip in the specialized trip taking. But the average wait time I thought was really interesting. The average wait time for a vehicle on microtransit commingled is 7 minutes. That, I don't know where you live in Niagara, but that is a rival to cabs, Ubers, anything of that sort, depending, on what kind of service that you're waiting curbside for. But 7 minutes is it's the time to beat now. So, heads up, Ed. Our 2025 KPIs around our boardings, this really just is a month-over-month look at some of the challenges and opportunities that we have in drawing people to the system. The September, October, November, December, where you see the drop there, that really is student ridership dropping off towards the last part of last fall. But we continue to skew very well in the public in our transit app surveys that ask, was your driver good at their job? Did you feel safe when you were on board? Did we provide you a good place to wait? That's somewhere where we have an opportunity to do a better job. Were you able to arrive on time? Was the arrival time prediction that we provided you accurate? And these are some of the metrics that I think we're mostly excited about gathering on our own from our ridership and from a larger sample of our ridership when we move in this year away from a public advisory committee and go to a customer insights panel. We're very interested in getting something that is very specific and much more engaged with our customers and our ridership about these kinds of questions. This is Jordan's slide. He's very proud of it. He really likes his flying buses. So we're giving you some fun facts. These are your takeaways that you can provide either to your councils or to the public. But it really is just about, how much service we cover in a year. And that's over 10,200 or 10,200,000 annual kilometers driven on our conventional system. And our in-house specialized is almost 1 million kilometers. We go to over 13 times to the moon and back. So I defy Artemis. Each bus drove an average of 1.5 times around the Earth, or across Canada 8.5 times. So I do want to thank everybody for all of the work that they helped me put into this annual report, whether or not they helped provide the statistics to report to you, or they provided the work and the time and the effort and the toil to realize these kinds of results. My thanks to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stout, for the presentation. I will say, when I went through the slideshow the first time, I got to that last slide, and I thought, oh, look, Ms. Stout is being silly. But it turns out it was Mr. Hamilton, which comes as no surprise to anybody. So I appreciate that. Member Olson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a truly impressive report, and staff should be congratulated. I've said many times that we have a superior staff at transit, and this just proves it. I think there's there's a couple of things that I would have added. I think I would have, that doesn't do justice to the entrepreneurial nature of the report. In when we miss out on things like the electrification of the fleet and the hydrogen powered, I would have thought that that would have been in the report. Could I ask Ms. Stout why that was omitted?
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. They're not in the report because technically they didn't happen in 2025. So those things are a 2026 application under the Hydrogen Innovation Fund that we are anticipating or hoping that we're going to have some feedback back from the province shortly, as well as the electrification study was provided to you in this year, in this calendar year. So you can absolutely expect to see that in the next report.
Thank you, Chair. It's back to Ms. Stout. I'm unlikely to be there for the next report, as you might know now by now. So this is going to be probably the last chance we have to see this report in the current organization of the things or of governance. That's why I was hoping to see something like this and be able to talk about it, because I think it's truly impressive, and the work on the Dane City route. I mean, that's pretty spectacular, the result that was achieved by just reorganizing something and not going to a whole bunch of extra cost. So I'd also like to ask, I've asked a couple of times about turn downs, because in the micro transit business, I get complaints from people saying that we phoned in for a ride and we got turned down because they couldn't provide a vehicle. Do we have those numbers yet, or is that going to be provided under some other report?
Through the chair, we do have some of those numbers available, and I can get back to you directly after this meeting for sure.
Okay, I think that's a key measurable, but I want to make sure that these are things that I'm interested in. But this is when you think back to the period of time that we've been involved and looked at this. This has been an amazing journey to see where we are today, after amalgamating some disparate kinds of organizations together to come up with this. Is really amazing. So thank you, Chair, and I want to leave it with that note of appreciation and acknowledgement of what the staff has done.
Thank you, Member Olson. Member Redicott.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the great report, General Manager, and thank you for bringing Rudolph to Fort Erie in November. I wanted to direct your attention to slide 9. This is the one that talks about service excellence, and the very last bullet states that ridership continues to significantly outpace budget increases, demonstrating that transit is being delivered efficiently in Niagara. There's a context to that, and it's not as simple as what that states, because we know that ridership has actually gone down for a variety of reasons. Can you explain the context behind this?
So through the chair, I think the context behind it is that, for every action, there is an equal and opposite positive or negative reaction, right? Yes, we've had an 8% decrease, but we're still topping out over 10 million trips, which now means that we are a system that reports into the Canadian Urban Transit Association as a major system in Canada. And if you look at investment overall into a system that you expect to perform like a major system in Canada, it has to have a consistent level of budget investment year over year to make sure that you are replacing the buses responsibly and that you are, increasing service to the measure of demand where demand is. So ridership, although in UPass did decline in the last fall, It's going up in other areas. It's going up in specialized transit. It's going up with regards to conventional transit and folks who are riding it who are adults or seniors. So I think the context that we're trying to provide is the budget we need consistency in the investment, right? In the budget to ensure that we are going to be consistently adding service where it's needed. As soon as that budget starts to drop off, that means that we are going to start dropping ridership because we're not going to be keeping pace with where the business is growing.
Thank you for that answer. But it really means that the last bullet point isn't completely accurate, because we actually are not significantly outpacing budget increases with the ridership. And the result is the cost per ride has actually increased because of that. So there are circumstances, Chair, that do reflect why the ridership has gone down and hopefully can be recovered, which leads me to my next question, and that is the data that Member Olson asked about and that Mr. Zara responded to. Can that not be made available? Because I've been asking for that for some time, and that's information that I think assists us in trying to expand our ridership even further to respond to the investments that we are making. So is there some reason why that data can't be provided?
So through the chair to you, Member Redekop, I believe you receive reports, or we receive regular reports from Mr. Zara with regards to the commingled transit, and trip denial trends or rates are provided in that. I know that what you're looking for is for that to be parsed out by local municipality. We are still struggling with that because of the way that people create accounts to get a ride in Rideco. People give us an email address. They don't necessarily give us an address. They don't necessarily live in your community. They may be going to your community, or they may be visiting your community and booking rides or having a ride denied. There's all sorts of reasons for that, and I know that we've had conversations about that, and we can continue to have that conversation. I think we're still looking for that information from our provider, but we absolutely are going to be bringing information on trip denials back to this board of directors. It's just not a part of this report.
I think that's extremely important, and it may be that they don't give you an address, but you have to have an address or at least a proximity to pick somebody up on demand. So that information should be available, Chair, and it would be particularly significant since you're going to be now putting a bus in Fort Erie to take up half of the community and more than half of the ridership. It would be very interesting to see what the implications of that are with respect to the microtransit service that's still going to be continuing. And so I would hope that we could get that information, because that's extremely important. And if our provider can't provide that, they should be finding ways that they can provide it, because we're living in an age where this is the type of data that should be recoverable from any type of technology, and is extremely important, I think, for running the type of service that we operate here. I have one final question, if I might, Chair, and that is hard to believe, but I did get a concern expressed about the new bus service, because it's not going to be as good as on demand under certain circumstances. Some of the people that use the on demand do have some mobility issues and maybe don't qualify for the specialized service. But I did communicate that information to Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Zart, and I presume that they're going to be passing that on and coming up with a solution that's going to satisfy the customer.
Through the chair, I'm just being told that information has been passed back to you, and it's in your inbox, sir.
Perfect. I better check my email then. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Redekop. Efficiency is a beautiful thing. Member Pachariva.
Thank you, Chair Cisco, and to Carla. Thank you for the report to you and staff. It's an excellent report. We had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to meet with Southward Community Church in Vineland. They do a migrant farmer outreach program. And anyone that knows the migrant community, they're very hesitant on going to appointments and that. Like they're picked up by cars where they lie down in the seat to not be seen because they think that they're, ducking work to go to like a doctor's appointment and things like that. I was talking to Mr. Hamilton about, connecting. I was telling them about the on-demand service, and they were didn't really know about it. So going to set up some education with that community, but wondering, might they be part of the transit benefit pass? Because I think they might meet the low income threshold. Just curious on that, because that would really increase the mobility of these workers that are a big part in our town in Niagara on the Lake, and really help them feel that they're part of the community, right? They pay CPP, they pay UI, they pay all of these things, but they don't really know the services that are afforded to them, that because they're taxpayers, they have access to it. So just curious on that. And if we could make that happen, I think it would be dynamite.
Well, through the chair to you, Member Pachareva, I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and I know Jordan and I have had conversations with groups that are surveying and studying and working, with migrant farm worker groups to understand what their challenges actually are, and what farmers' challenges actually are in getting people not only to come work here in Niagara, right? Because that's a major challenge, but also how do they connect them to services, right? And that can be groceries. That, like never have there ever been so many bicycles on a country road than, in the summer here in Niagara, right? So we definitely have spoken about and have talked to our community outreach coordinator about getting out in front of the job creators that bring people to Niagara, because those are their lifeline, are the people who actually bring them here, whether it's an employer or it's a group that's working on their behalf. But when you're talking about the low income threshold pass, they absolutely probably meet that. What it might be is the next step of identifying those agencies that are putting farmers with workers and connecting them with the SAEO office, who does the administration of our low income pass here. And if we can create that kind of synergy, then they can cut transit right out of the mix, and they can work directly with the groups that are serving migrant workers. One of the things that Jordan and I discovered when we were in a meeting with folks that represent workers here was that the transit app can actually be converted so that it speaks Spanish. And that might, and that's just an opportunity for us to learn about the technologies and the things that we have available to us that are going to make it easier for people here to take advantage of the program of transit. So we're definitely talking the same language. I think we just need to get the right people seated at the right table to make sure that we make this as easy as possible for these folks, because they do come with an English as a second language problem a lot of the time, as well as, like you said, maybe a reticence to taking the opportunity. So there's an education component there that we can also do through outreach, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's, and through you, Chair Cisco, that's terrific to hear, because you're sitting in a meeting like that, and it's an opportunity about connecting the dots, right? Having been on the commission here, and I go, oh God, like, let's put these two groups together. And 95% of them have bicycles and have access, but you know what, after working 12 to 14 hours in the hot sun, and there's guys my age there, they've been doing this for a year, and that's the last thing they want to do is get on a bike and ride it. So if we can connect it, that'll just help us increase our ridership and connectivity. And again, make these workers really feel part of Niagara and part of the community, because they are. Without them, I don't think we'd have a lot of fruit picking done. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Pachareva. Are there any other questions or comments? Oh, Councilor Morocco.
Thank you, Chair. Greatly appreciate it. I just wanted to say to Carla, thank you very much. The report is very detailed. And we're glad to see that the transit is expanding to Fort Erie and throughout our Niagara region. One of the questions, and I probably will ask this later, and I'm going to apologize. I have to jump off this at 4 o'clock because I'm the chair of the Women's Advisory, which starts at 4 o'clock. And I hope you still have quorum. But anyway, one of the things I do want to just maybe I'll catch up later, is on-demand service. And I have to say, kudos to this group and everybody involved, because when I first came on transit, oh my goodness, I never received so many calls and complaints about transit, about workers missing their bus, not getting to the hotels, people not getting picked up or being left behind. And it's pretty much, knock on wood, become crickets. So thank you to the entire team for making that happen. I know that we still have an issue with the on-demand, and I think I just want to maybe follow up on another side email or whatever. We know that there's a lot of people using the service that really shouldn't be using the service. How are we trying to move them away from the on-demand service is one of the questions that I have, and you maybe can answer that later because I'm going to have to run, or you can tell everybody and I'll catch up later. Thank you, Chair.
All right, the general manager has indicated she will catch up with you later. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, thank you very much for the presentation. We will move on now to item 7.1, NTC 6-2026, and this is the Route 322 extension agreement. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the report? Member Morocco and Member Olson. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Moving to item 7.2, procurement bylaw, appointment of Niagara Transit Commission representative. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the report? Member Redekop and Member Longo. Are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then 7.3, corporate services update. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the report NTC 8-2026? Member Patriva, Member Riley. Are there any questions, comments? Member Redekop.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little surprised that this wasn't brought forward during the budget process. We're 2 months after the region has approved the budget, and surely the notion that this individual is going to need to be made a permanent full-time staffer as opposed to temporary should have been in the minds of the region, the transit executive chair. Is there an explanation as to why this wasn't brought forward for the budget?
Through the chair to you, Member Redekop, not overtly, other than we know that the contract for this position is going to be up at the end of the year. And we were still in the process of determining through adopting our own IT strategy master plan whether or not we were going to require the ongoing position. So here we are at the end of Q1 and traffic has not reduced. And in fact, we have some operating changes with the onloading of things like Optibus and payroll and things like that we think is actually going to increase a need. So we had thought that we were going to be winding this position down, but we know that that's not true.
I'm not going to support this, Chair, because I think this should be part of the budget process. This person is on staff until the end of the year, until before the 2027 budget cycle starts. And I don't want to be hard-headed on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm not satisfied. I'm not a happy camper on this particular issue. The rest of the stuff that's going on here, I'm quite happy about. This one, I'm just not happy. Not anybody's fault. Maybe I'm hard to please. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Redekop. I would never describe you as hard-headed.
I'm sure you have.
Might have used other choice words at various times, Mayor, but I'm sure you've said the same about me. All right, I am seeing no other questions or comments. So at this point, I will call the question. All those in favor of the recommendation on the screen? Opposed? And that carries. At this time, we will move on to item 8, consent items for information. Does any member wish to deal with any of the consent items separately? All right, seeing none, then can I have a mover and a seconder to take the consent items as a block? Member Dodge and Member Beauregard. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we move on to item 9, other business. Are there any other items of business this afternoon? Member Beauregard.
Thanks. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the General Manager. Last week, a boat hit the Clarence Street Bridge in Port Colborne, and as a result, the bridge has been closed to pedestrian and vehicular traffic for an indefinite period of time by the St. Lawrence Seaway. This has resulted in great difficulties for residents on the east side of the canal to be able to access the Port Colborne link, which is predominantly operates on the west side of the canal. I'm just wondering, can staff look into putting a stop on the east side of the canal in order to address the issues that have been because of the bridge being closed?
So through the chair to you, Member Beauregard, this is a consistent conversation that we have with the City of Port Colborne about moving the Port Colborne link across the canal for precisely the same reasons that you just outlined, that your residents are having a hard time getting across the canal, so would a bus. We also have time constraints on the 25 that preclude us from taking it over even the alternative bridge. Unless the City of Port Colborne would like to talk about 2-hour service instead of hourly service. Because the timing that is required to provide essentially what the town of Fort Erie is going to be getting, which is a community bus, an extension of a regional route, means that you are asking for the extension of and the creation of a community route where it does not exist now. The microtransit service that is provided in your community does directly pick people up, curb to curb, and take them right to the number 25 route. And those vans are a lot more nimble and a lot more easy to get across the one remaining open bridge than it is for me to take a 40-foot bus the other way. If there's something that we can do from a communication standpoint where we can get the word out better to residents in Port Colborne about how those two things align, and how people can make sure that, you know, they're getting the access that they need to get across the canal on microtransit to make those connections. We're happy to do that. But it's not an easy ask to ask us to move the bus across the canal.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the commission if staff can look into helping the city get the message across, or just bringing the message across to residents, that would be very helpful.
Through the chair to you, Member Beauregard, we absolutely can do that. We can make a concerted effort to make sure that we're trying to get out to the places in Port Colborne as well on the east side. It may be worth us having some sort of community open house or something like that at one of the local halls down in that area and get some community outreach there. I believe what we have is likely an information or an education problem, and that's certainly something that we're willing to work with the City of Port Colborne on.
Okay, thank you, Member Beauregard. Are there any other items of other business? All right, seeing none, at this time, we have some closed session items. Does anybody wish to enter into closed session to deal with either of the items that are currently presented? Member Ratzlaff, okay. Member Ratzlaff, which item specifically? There's NTC C12 and 13.
13.
13? Okay. Just pause for 1 second. If NTCC 13 is the only item we wish to go in camera on. All right. So then can I have a motion to go in camera? Mover and a seconder. Member Ratzlaff and Member Redekop. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. In camera we go. All right, welcome back. Can I have a mover and a seconder for confidential report NTCC 12-2026? Member Redekop, Member Beauregard. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for confidential report NTCC 13-2026? I'm going to go with Member Ratzlaff because he made us discuss it. And can I have a seconder? Member Beauregard. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 16, 2026 at 3 p.m. in the Council Chamber Regional Headquarters. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.